Good morning to everybody. I would try and stick to the time in the interest of everybody. Just a few slides on the group and the activity, how we are in the electricity business. This is the group, one of the largest shareholding group, 8 million shareholders with about 100,000 trained workforce. These are the various verticals in the group, which is capital, communication, infrastructure, power, and entertainment. And the distribution falls under infrastructure apart from other part of the verticals. We are predominantly in the distribution business in Delhi and Mumbai. We serve about 6 million consumers with about 5,000 megawatt of power. 50% market share in the private sector in India. This is what is Mumbai, 400 square kilometer, which is our licensed area. 2.9 million customers with about 1,800 MVA of demand, and about 20,000 kilometers of cable, which is in addition to that another 10,000, which is a last mile connectivity to the consumers. Now coming to the smart grid, there have been mention about what is smart grid. What we look at is, am I able to control and am I bringing in efficiency? And these are the two buzzwords which we use for any action we want to take forward in deciding what to do, because we are a regulated business, and we treat ourselves as the custodian of the economic value of the consumers. And that's why it's important for us to keep these things in mind. So we did our smart grid maturity model assessment. We requested Accenture to undertake the study. And we found that in some of the areas we are ahead of the peers. That was compared with 115 utilities of the world. In some areas we are lagging behind, in some areas we are almost there, we are. And we found that customer is somewhere we want to do a little more focus on in addition to the technology. So we chalked out our program as to where we are and where do we want to be in next 4 or 5 years. So this is our forward path as far as smart grid and smartness is concerned. These are the key objectives. We already, what we want to also keep in mind is that it's difficult to replace the vast majority of assets in one go, and therefore we are looking at alternatives of retrofit as well as new installations. So that becomes our focus. Then we want that it should be open-ended. We should not be constrained by the supplier or technology, and that's how our entire focus is on that. We would also want to go beyond the so-called metering as a smart metering on how to make the equipment smart. I'm not going into the very much of a detail. The presentation will be left behind and you would be free to have a copy of that. So these were our selection criteria. We should have reliability, scalability, ability to meet present and the future business needs, interoperability with the open standards, total cost ownership, and the future proof. That means we should be able to continue to use these investments as we go forward and the changes come in. So on the communication part, we did project PLC and RF. We evaluated as to what should be the technology which we should be using, considering the topography and the mix which we have in Mumbai. Because Mumbai has its own peculiarities. There are large unorganized developments. About 40% of the population or 60% of the population lives in those kind of conditions. So we did field trials in different areas so that we get the problems originating out of those trials, and then we take a call on what we should be doing it. And finally, whatever we did in pilot, ultimately DOT compendium included those kind of feedbacks to make the forward path for the country. Now, what are the unique features which we have to look at? Theft prevention and loss reduction is one of the criteria which we have to keep in mind. Enhancing of life of the meters. Typically, it used to be 5 to 6 years warranty periods on some of the equipment like battery, displays. So we said, how do we extend that? And that's how we did swappable battery, we could remove the battery and put a new one, and meter still is operational. And then make it future-proof as to how do we continue to use whatever technology we are bringing in on a longer-term perspective. Then we decided what should be our communication specifications. I won't go over the details. Again, fundamental principle is robustness, interoperability, and not constrained by any particular technology. This is what we finally came out, that we would have the nodes at the lowest level, which would communicate with the gateways, and the gateways will communicate through optic fibers to the central system where the processing will happen. So this is the technology or the topography which we're going to use as we go forward in implementation of smartness in our system. These are different potential uses. Apart from a simple managing or controlling the meters, we could go beyond that to use the network which we are going to put up. And that's what is also in our horizon to keep looking at and expand the uses. We, about 1.5 years back, with the support of USTDA and Innovari, did an automated demand management system for about 1 megawatt. And we successfully implemented it for 1.5 years, and now we just signed yesterday to take this 1 megawatt to 100 megawatt. The savings which have come out have been, in the unit terms, anything between 8% to 15% for the consumers. And we have modeled it so that NPV, it's a positive, and so there's no extra burden on the consumers. We are also making access of the consumer to his consumption and profiling. So we are going to launch this portal, which will, with a gap of 15 minutes, consumer will be able to see its 15-minute consumption pattern. They'll be able to understand what the graphs are, so that they can more efficiently use their energy, knowing fully well as to how the consumption patterns are. Well, that's about it. I didn't want to take more time. We'll leave the presentation behind, and if there are any questions, I'm here for today. Please feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you.